Hello and welcome to MAGA, the podcast. Now, this is not your racist uncle's MAGA. Our MAGA stands for I'm an Angry Asshole, the cult of Donald Trump. And I am your host, the Disgusted American. Our mission is to reveal how Don the Con bamboozled our nation. Our goal is to make sure the cult of MAGA goes down in flames by 2028, to stop it before it becomes unstoppable and our democracy further decays into a dictatorship. If we want the cult of MAGA to end, we have to know how it began and why it spread. We have to go back to Trump 1.0, the election of 2016. So in our last episode, we explored how Trump became the Monopoly Man, how he created the legend of the Donald, the brash, outspoken, successful real estate tycoon and straight shooter, who was the ultimate embodiment of American success. A great man who would make America great again. That was the essence of his 2016 campaign. So this week, we're going to continue our deeper dive into the traits that Trump possessed at the beginning of the political Hunger Games, the things that gave him a huge advantage in the arena. And the third and final ingredient of Trump's pre-Hunger Game secret sauce. Now, Trump developed the third ingredient in his special sauce in a strange place, the squared circle, aka a wrestling ring.
Now it is time for the Battle of the Billionaires Hair versus Hair match. Money, 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 money. Got the money, man. Look at that man right there, Donald Trump.
So many celebrities come into our business and have a blast. And Donald was one of them. Donald had always been a fan. So I went to Donald and I said, I have this idea. What if we each have a wrestler that represents us at WrestleMania? And if Donald Trump loses, then I shave his head. Of course, if I lose, same thing.
The Donald Trump Vince McMahon Battle of the Billionaires feud, it was the biggest pay-per-view audience in the history of pro wrestling pay-per-view. It was a giant, giant attraction.
Trump learned how to think and act like a professional wrestler. And all great wrestlers learn how to work a particular type of audience, a rowdy mob. Because at the end of the day, wrestling is just soap operas for boys. The same exact dynamics are at play to get people to watch a wrestling match as to watch a soap opera. Viewers run on emotion, betrayal, jealousy, heroism. In wrestling, the heroes are called babyfaces. The villains are called heels. In soap operas, the villains are called vixens, and they wear heels. It's the same kind of idea. Because a sinister magic occurs when you incite emotions in an audience. You can turn them into a mob. And a mob is active. They're violent. They're capable of anything. There's a group energy that takes over. It can be exhilarating and very, very dangerous. So when and how did Trump get involved with professional wrestling?
So Donald Trump, I was in New York in the 80s. Donald Trump was big in the tabloids, and he was spending a lot of time hanging out, being friends with people like Vince McMahon. And so starting in the 80s, when his casinos hosted WrestleMania, I think 4 and 5 in Atlantic City, Donald Trump has been ringside. He's been part of that conversation. And in 2007, so 10 years, just 10 years before Trump was inaugurated, Donald Trump did a whole promotion with Vince in WrestleMania. So they spent 3-4 months building up to a big match in 2007, WrestleMania 23, with 80,000 fans in the arena over months. They did a contract signing. Trump became a fan favorite. He did a bit where he showered the audience with money, even bought, supposedly, the WWE for a time, and then had to sell it back because people were so upset. And all of this was just generating huge amounts of heat, huge audience attention and joy.
Thus began a drawn-out WWE storyline with Trump as a good guy, a babyface in wrestling terms, standing up to the villainous heel played by Vince McMahon.
Donald Trump is having a little too much fun here.
So this was a huge, grand thing. But basically what happened was, and what's fascinating is that you see Trump performing in this arena, and contrary to a lot of the press, because since Trump was a candidate, the popular press in particular have gone to town over this event and written about it a lot. And usually they assume that he was the bad guy because we don't like Trump, therefore he must be a bad guy. But this is as silly as when I went to wrestling the first time in 1988 in Madison Square Garden, and Mr. Perfect came out, and my husband and I stood up and went, yay! Yeah. And 19,998 people went boo and almost killed us. And so Trump was not the bad guy. He was the good guy. Vince McMahon was the bad guy.
Look at that sight, Mr. McMahon. That could be before.
What are you
and
saying
after.
to me, Vince? What are you saying? What are you saying, Vince? You want some? You want some? Come on up here. Come on up, Vince.
Oh my! You gotta be
You
kidding.
want some? Let's go.
Wait a minute, this is a personal challenge now. Our Trump.
Come on up, Vince. Come on.
Here he comes. Donald Trump and Vince McMahon gonna fight right here tonight.
There was like a Vince McMahon, Donald Trump feud, which allowed Donald Trump to become Stone Cold Steve Austin. There he is in the middle of the ring, shaving Vince McMahon's head for everyone cheering, elated to watch this happen. I've got friends that worked backstage at that time as writers, and they said that Trump was super quiet, very respectful, just soaking it all up, taking it all in.
The president, says Young White, seemed inspired by the playbook of the WWE empire built by Vince McMahon in terms of character, timing, and impact.
It really comes down to the spectacle and knowing how and when to play the villain and how and when to play the hero, which is at the backbone of pro wrestling.
But in order to show us that violence, what we really see, what we see that makes that show work is the cooperation of men. So we see this very double kind of performance. And just as with the State of the Union right now, we get told what we see as much as we are actually looking. So what you have are people, commentators like Mean Jane or Gorilla Monsoon, we have them telling us what we're seeing, and then we're seeing as well. So in part, what's happening is the entire audience, all the spectators, are creating that performance sort of in collusion. Mm-hmm. They're agreeing to cheer, they're agreeing to boo, they're moving with and negotiating that performance in a very live way. It's all kayfabe.
Kayfabe. It's an old wrestling word, but relevant now, says Sharon Mazer, to today's politics.
Kayfabe is, in wrestling, the agreement between wrestlers and the promoter and the referees and most of the audience to act as if what is being performed is for real.
Couldn't knock him down. Couldn't slam him. Watch this.
The rules and conventions of kayfabe, she says, are what makes the performance enjoyable.
Kayfabe is a narrative. It's a story that everybody agrees on.
Kayfabe is meant to exist during the performance, not every day. Weird things happen when the fantasy takes over reality.
So Sharon, what are we watching when we're watching professional wrestling?
We're watching a display of violence. I used to joke that, what wrestling tells the world is that two men can't get within 18 feet of each other without wanting to, come to blows. We're watching this really complicated sort of because it's evolved over a long period of time, a very complicated show of violence and masculinity where what we see is a display of antagonism. The pleasure of wrestling is not the contest between the two men is fun, but it's actually a contest between the audience and the promoter, the guy with the money. So the guy, which is why Vince McMahon makes a great heel, the guy with the money who decides how these men are going to be costumed, how they're going to enter the ring, who's going to win, who's going to lose, and on what terms. In other words, what kind of job those men are doing, who owns their performance. He's the guy that the audience is against all the time, because that fix that exact thing is where the pleasure of the audience is. What they're protesting when, I don't know, Macho Man wins at Hulk Hogan's expense by cheating. What the audience is protesting is the unfairness of the script that they've been made to follow, which is how most of us in the audience feel about our daily lives. We don't like having to follow that script. So the pleasure of Donald Trump, making a segue, is that his refusal to follow the script, to shoot the match, which is what the wrestlers call it when a wrestler goes off book, off script. They'll say, I marked out, I turned into a mark because I believed it was real. For a moment, I believed they were shooting. Well, Donald Trump says very clearly, he knows how to control that performance. He did a whole bit during one campaign rally where he went on, he said, you want to see presidential? I can do presidential. Walked off stage and came back and read as if from a teleprompter, just as he's doing right now while I'm not looking, pretending, and called it out as a script, as a performance. And he said, well, I'm not going to do that. And went back to insulting people, right? What the audience loves is the breaking of the script. So breaking of the presidential script is appealing to a large number of people, probably even to the people like me who despise him and are still in mourning and all of that. We take pleasure in hating on him in the same way we might Hulk Hogan we never hated Hulk Hogan, but maybe Ravishing Rick Rude or Mr. Perfect, right? Mr. Perfect. We would hate on him with great glee. And so that liberal constituency hating on Donald Trump has no effect because, it's part of the game.
I was entertained by Trump when he was on the show.
Come on up here.
His ability to speak to wrestling fans was excellent.
To me, they look like a very smart group of people.
He was kind of perfect for the role.
And if you look at his fan base prior to, like, the people that watched The Apprentice, the people that read about him being made fun of in Spy magazine, it definitely wasn't necessarily the people that now make up the MAGA base. And I think that's WWE we have to thank/blame for that.
Honestly, looking back on it now, you can see why he ended up going into politics. There's nothing more intoxicating than having 50, 100,000 people screaming your name. Yeah. And of course you would want to build a character because, as you see, wrestlers don't know how to retire. And it's because that feeling of coming through the curtain one more time is just amazing. So I can see when Trump goes to a rally or anything like that, there it is. There's that intoxicating feeling of everybody's looking at me. Everyone's paying attention to what I'm doing. And in that time, I don't think, of course, McMahon was the bad guy. So we're all rooting for Donald Trump and Bobby Lashley and not Umaga. But it's one of those things where it's like, wow, this thing really laid the foundation for him to build this entire character and personality to will his way into presidency. It's crazy.
It's not even like a particularly different character that he plays now than he does then. It's very much the same kind of dynamics, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy when you see people still using the meme of him clotheslining Vince McMahon at WrestleMania in 2007, as one of their talking points. It's just it's like, whoa, worlds crossing. That shouldn't.
Vince McMahon worked the audience into a lather, insulted them, played the elite card, did all of the things that, Trump was accusing Hillary Clinton of only 7 or 8 years later, right? He is a populist.
He's the man of the people.
He's the rich man of the people who showers money on them. So that if you take those 80,000 in the arena and the millions watching at home in 2007, and you say these people were conditioned through the construction of the event to cheer for Donald Trump, and then they were asked, who do they want for president? And, well, duh. And remembering that not all wrestling fans are white trash, that, in fact, wrestling fans are very diverse in terms of class, race, gender, sexuality. I mean, I've seen everyone out watching. People are that conditioning, that setting him up, and the discourse around it, including the way the commentators treated it, the way Vince McMahon was set himself up to be the bad guy by being an elitist. All of those discourses were not so different to what Trump was playing out. consciously or not. Sometimes we wonder what he thinks, but he was playing it out very visibly and vividly throughout the national elections, so that when Trump is in the debate, the second debate with Hillary Clinton, and creeping up behind her, or calling her names and things, and calling her the elite. What is our frame of reference? Not the academics, not the political scientists, but the people who are actually watching.
In truth, Donald Trump's sensibility and public persona is much closer to that of a wrestler than to a statesman.
Oh, throw him the hell out of here. I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
Our fingerprints are on so many things in the world. Politics, absolutely, my God. Why wouldn't you want to be like WWE?
I can do whatever the hell I want.
Well, I have the right to do whatever I want as president.
This is what we do. We present larger-than-life characters making outlandish statements that make people go, oh my God, I can't believe he said that.
Donald Trump is an example of what seems to be a kind of pro-wrestlingification of American politics and American society.
If you're going to look at the influence of Vince McMahon and pro wrestling on culture, man, we elected a president that was playing a pro wrestler on TV. I don't know if it's Trump being Trump or he learned from wrestling.
So the more kayfabe expands, the more it distorts reality. It enters national politics with Trump in 2016. Now it's entering how national and international decisions are being made by the current Trump administration. Really important things like tariffs.
The tariff exchange is classic kayfabe.
In that everyone played their roles. Trump performed tossing his opponents onto the ropes, Mazur says, and in turn, they performed a win for him and his fans. Classic kayfabe. So, she says, is the idea of Elon Musk playing a villainous manager in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency, a setup that might remind wrestling fans of Trump and McMahon's onstage dynamic.
This is bad. Really bad. National policy decisions should not be made with the bravado and bluster of a wrestling promo.
But the reality, she says, is nothing wrestling fans would recognize.
This is something beyond kayfabe, the chaos right now.
She has a name for it, post-kayfabe.
If everything is kayfabe now, then nothing is kayfabe. And what we lose is the security of that structure.
In wrestling and in government, Mazur says.
This rematch has been really messy. And in any case, the question is who's setting up the show that we're seeing and getting us to play along? Who's the guy with the money who is commanding our performance in relation to what we're seeing?
Comedian Jabuki Young White jokes there's a lesson here for Democratic Party leadership.
You need to get somebody at WWE SmackDown right now. You need to get somebody at Raw right now. Put them in front of those crowds. This is not even talking about presidential readiness. I'm talking about who could get in a Speedo next week.
And who understands that brawls between elected officials in 2025 might involve as many jumps, bumps, and throws as parliamentary procedures.
If you look at the world from this premise, the current state of America starts to make a lot more sense. What's this premise? What if kayfabe spread from an episode of Monday Night Raw to our everyday lives? By the way, don't forget, Donald Trump is in the WWE Hall of Fame. What if a pro wrestler ran the nation? It would look exactly like this. Chaos, confusion, anger, dismay, fear, disaster. The charm of a Monday Night Raw episode wears off pretty damn quick when it's all day, every day. But that's where we are now. We're in a fucking Groundhog Day episode of Monday Night Raw. Donald Trump punches the Constitution in the face and the mob roars. He acts like a gangster and they cheer. He mocks the vulnerable and they laugh. Does this feel like your worst nightmare? Welcome to America 2025. It's time to learn the new national anthem, courtesy of Donald Trump and Monday Night Raw. In today's episode, we talked about WWE superstar Donald J. Trump. Or the Donald, to be more realistic, right? Another part of the legend. We explored how the Donald used kayfabe to warp a wrestler working a crowd into a politician working voters. He learned at the feet of the greatest promoter of all time, Vince McMahon. He learned how to work a crowd, how to convert them from an audience into a mob, make them love you, make them hate you. The direction of the feeling doesn't really matter. Love or hate, it's irrelevant. Yesterday's babyface is tomorrow's heel. All that matters is that the mob feels something powerful. So they feel compelled to act on those emotions. Get them to whip out the pitchforks and the torches. Get them to act like a mob. So next week, we're going to explore how these three major ingredients of Trump's secret sauce, the things that he brought into the arena before the Hunger Games started, 1, being an American Idol, 2, being the Monopoly Man, and 3, being a WWE superstar. How did all these things combine? When Trump leapt off the top rope and into the American political stage. It was like Macho Man running on stage at the opera. And he just starts throwing fucking haymakers in the orchestra pit and drop kicks the fat lady in the Viking hat. Right? Nobody knows what to do. People start flipping through their programs. They're all confused. Like, is this part of the show? Because I thought Man and Butterfly was about geishas, not yellow spandex. So that's all we've got for this week. If you want to help out the channel, please subscribe or follow us on your preferred podcast platform, and tell your fellow disgusted Americans where they can find us so they can give us a listen. If you have a moment, please leave us a rating on your platform so more folks can find the show. New episodes drop every Wednesday. It's been a pleasure. Have a great night, folks. Ciao. Bye.